Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you a new series here at the tavern, which I now call Sentai Origins. And this is presented by Hirotaku.com as well. And joining me for the first episode of Sentai Origins, we have, I think the adjective I'm going to use for you today is Uncanny Raptor?
Yes, the Uncanny Raptor. We'll go with that.
The Uncanny Raptor. And basically, Raptor, we have created a new series on the tavern. And what it is, as the title suggests, it is about the origins of different Sentai series. And basically what we'll do is we'll watch the first episode, or first two, depending on the season and all that.
And how much is available.
And how much, and also is available on different Sentai first episodes to find out how the team came together and just kind of give our thoughts on what we thought of their origin story. So Raptor, what are we starting off with here today?
Well, to start off, we went back to the very beginning with Hitsumu Sentai Goranger.
And I'm glad you could say that because I was just going to call him Goranger.
And you're the one trying to insert Japanese into the intro.
I'm not trying. I am. So moving on, the first episode, the first thing we have to mention is it was never intended to be a Super Sentai series to begin with. That technically began with Battle Fever J, and then this was retconned into the canon, basically.
Yeah, so this is referred to as the Secret Task Force Goranger instead of the Super Task Force. Although I suppose all Sentai series have, something Task Force.
Yeah, it's always something like that.
The Super Sentai franchise name would not come for years, until Battle Fever J. So Jacka and Goranger, they were just retroactively brought in.
Yeah, definitely. So basically this episode, I'll just give a quick synopsis, is that what I would describe as a terrorist organization known as the Black Cross is attacking 5 military installations in Japan, military installations under the code name Eagle. I forget what the exact full name of it is, but it's called Eagle throughout the series.
Yeah, it's not an acronym.
Yeah, it's not an acronym. And at each base, they destroy it, kill everyone, but there's always one survivor after each attack. And then those survivors end up joining up together to form the Goranger to fight and combat the Black Cross.
Yes, and it's not entirely clear who brings all of the Gorangers together. It's
really rushed, which I've noticed a lot from a lot of Sentai first episodes, is that you want to get past a lot of things just to get to the action.
You want to get to the action and introduce the characters just so you can have something entertaining for the fans to want to come back to next week.
Yes, now the detriment of this episode, I think, is we don't learn anything about the characters. All we really learn is that Red is the leader, Blue is the cowboy, maybe a little bit rebellious, Yellow is fat, and Pink is a girl.
Yeah, Yellow's a big ear. Yeah, that's pretty much all you learn about everyone.
Yeah, so they sacrifice character for the story, at least in the first episode. Because I'll tell you something that was a little bit odd to me, is that none of them seem to have survivor's guilt. Or at least show any signs of that. Because remember, they are the only ones left from each of the 5 bases left alive. Everybody else died.
Yeah, all of their units are wiped out.
And let's be clear about that too. They died. I was really surprised by the gunplay in this episode. They were shooting people left and right, and they were dying.
Realistic guns.
Yes. Now, there was no blood and all that, but geez, man.
Yeah, and granted, the budget probably wouldn't have allowed for squibs.
Or even lasers, obviously this series is based off of, obviously, like James Bond, secret, super spy kind of stuff in a way. But actually, to me, and I made this point to you, this actually reminds me of G.I. Joe in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and which is interesting because this was before G.I. Joe came around, or at least in the Cobras versus Joes form.
It almost seems that way. It's Eagle versus Black Cross. military organization versus a terrorist organization.
Exactly.
So it's pretty much the same thing. I don't know if that was the genesis for G.I. Joe, but geez, wouldn't it be interesting if it was?
That would be very interesting, and I'm almost wondering if there wasn't lawsuits considered at some point by somebody in Toei over that whole thing.
Never know, but we may find out one day. Raptor, what else do you want to say about this episode? What did you think about it?
Well, first of all, yes, the brutality of it was very astounding. It was incredible to see these black suited thugs come out of nowhere and start gunning people down, stab them,
poison them with gas.
Yeah, and you can't get away with poison gas in Japanese media.
Not since O-Ranger.
Yeah, not since the sarin subway attacks.
Yeah. So that was real. That really surprised me because, everybody keeps saying Sentai's a kid show like Power Rangers is, but geez, what were the kids watching in the 1970s?
Yeah, and yet it does have a lot of kid-friendly elements.
With you got the kindergartners in there for one, and you got the little brother of the Pink Ranger.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't watched the episode, after the Go Rangers have all been assembled, they are sent to rescue a group of kindergartners from a munitions factory.
Yeah, gunpowder factory, I think is what it said.
That's about to be blown up.
Yeah. So their first mission is to save children from being blown up. That's an interesting mission.
And what's interesting is that during this mission, they do it without henching.
Yeah, they don't transform at all. They don't use any special weapons. All they use is their skyship, basically, to lower a claw into the building and grab them.
And the skyship, admittedly, was pretty cool. The miniature effects, very dated, but...
Yeah, obviously they've gotten better with those. But for the time, I could see... what would you say they're on par with some of the early Godzilla films? Or
with the Godzilla films of the time, they're a bit behind.
But it's a television show, so yeah.
Right. Godzilla films had a higher budget. As compared to things like Ultraman or Spider-Man a few years later, yeah, it's on par.
Yeah, and there isn't a lot of detail, not a lot of explanation, because again, it's hurry up, go, 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 if I could say that. And I found it enjoyable. I thought it was kind of interesting. They really started out very dark. It is the 70s after all, and it is... it's a good way to get the characters together that they survived, and that's what makes them unique to be chosen, I guess. But it is kind of odd how they were chosen, because it does seem that their leader is a giant computer. Mm-hmm. So if everybody died except these people, then that military organization is gone. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but Japan's not supposed to have a standing army of any kind. Is that correct?
Well... they are allowed to have the Special Defense Force.
Okay, so that's where these guys would fall under.
Yeah, you could argue that they're a sort of equivalent to the CIA or MI6.
Yeah, we don't really know what Eagle's goal was or what they were used for prior.
They're a secret government spy organization. That's what matters.
Yeah. Now let's quickly talk about... I want to talk about the Pink Ranger, or what's the Japanese name for her?
Momo Ranger.
Momo Ranger. Let's talk about her, because I just find it incredibly sexist. Because first of all, the first time we see her there, she's introduced, she's riding a horse, which is a very girl thing. Ponies, I want a pony, and horses and stuff.
That being said, equestrian arts they're popular amongst all age groups. And
well, I understand that, but let me tie this into the other points too. Her weapon her two main weapons that she uses throughout the episode are exploding earrings, which hang off her helmet,
and a mirror.
A mirror to blind the enemy.
And she has a heart for her visor.
Yes, so I'm just bemused by the whole thing. That they kind of got away with it, and also what's really cool, or what's not really cool, but what's really interesting is even in the 70s, so my wife complains about how the Sentai girls nowadays wear the short shorts and everything. They were doing that in the 1970s as well.
Oh, it was bigger back then.
So it's more, well, the guys were in the short shorts too in the soccer scene, which is also kind of interesting that this franchise begins with a soccer game.
Yeah, and the episode finishes with a soccer game.
Yes, with Super Sentai Ball, or I don't know what they call the episode, but that's...
No, it was the Goranger Storm.
Goranger Storm. And of course, that would be used 30 years later as the Super Sentai Ball in the Super Sentai versus Goranger movie. So I was like, oh, now I know where that genesis came from. But it is odd to see that a lot of things they did establish here, like the roll call, the short shorts, all that stuff, just started here, and it's still around with us almost 40 years later.
Yeah, it is interesting to see things that... All right, so when someone watches Power Rangers or Sentai at this point, they expect formula.
Yeah.
And watching this, you see a lot of the formula that isn't there, but a lot of stuff that stuck around.
Exactly.
And of course, a lot of the formula isn't there because this was the first episode of the first series. So there was no formula. They were making it all up as they went.
Absolutely. And it is amazing just to see kind of what stuck around. Obviously, a lot of things changed. Zords and Mecha, they became a much bigger part of the series. Robotic or demon grunts became things. Because there's really no indication that these guys are anything other than people. Which is kind of odd considering...
It's a bit confusing because the generals, such as Gold Mask and Poison Gas Mask, they could either be taken as supernatural creatures or they could be taken as people wearing suits.
Yeah, I'm not even sure about the origins of the Black Cross. I haven't done too much research on him, but from this episode, it would seem almost that they are humans in a way, and they're just using those suits.
They're like Cobra, as you pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to think the guy with the gas mask is like Destro. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And although there are two more things I'd like to add in.
Okay.
Gold Mask, I thought he was a cool villain for the first episode.
Which they destroyed in the first episode with the soccer ball, of all things.
So he's probably just Monster of the Week, which...
I thought he was going to be like one of the main generals, but no.
Who knows? Maybe he comes back.
Yeah, I mean, there's 80 episodes, so...
Yeah, he thought he was cool. I also really liked Green's boomerang weapon.
The slowest moving boomerang in history, but it was pretty cool. I did like that.
Yeah, I like that it was large enough to use as a hand-to-hand weapon as well as a projectile. I like that.
And I just don't understand why the Red Ranger has a whip. That does seem a little bit odd that the leader would have that type of weapon.
Oh, it would get worse when we got to the ribbons. And which Sentai was that?
Goggle 5?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we'll eventually get to the other Sentai episodes. Our plan is we're going to watch, again, the first episode or first two, depending if it's a multi-parter and all that, and just kind of give you guys our idea about what we think of these episodes. And, Raptor, just before we go ahead and end here, based on the first episode, would you want to watch more of this season?
I would like to. It looked like it was fun. It was a nice setup. The villains, while not that well defined, looked pretty menacing. Mm-hmm. They looked like they would be fun to watch more of. And I would love to see more of the stuff they did in this 1970s lack of censorship.
Yes, I mean, there's obviously some censorship there, but compared to today, let's be honest, Sentai is less brutal. Power Rangers is less brutal than it was when they originally started.
You're not going to have... They haven't been... Can you think of any time in a recent Sentai when the goons have used realistic weapons?
Not immediately off the top of my head. But you know what? Raptor, thank you for joining me again. I really had a lot of fun watching this episode here today. So we'll be back with the next one. Maybe we'll go ahead and do the next season, which was, Jacka?
Jacka, yes.
Or maybe we'll do another one. We'll just see what's available on the internet, I guess. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good day. And the tavern is now closed.